The man in the hoodie airport was crowded. Luggage wheels screeched across the shiny floor. People rushed through gates, with phones in their hands and coffee spilling from paper cups. A loud voice on the speaker called out gate changes in 3 languages. Everything moved fast. In the middle of all this noise, a man sat alone on a metal bench near Terminal 4. He wore a plain black hoodie, gray jeans, and scuffed sneakers. A baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. His shoulders were slightly slouched, and he looked like he hadn't slept in days. Most people passed him without looking. He didn't stand out. He didn't ask for attention. But that man was Keanu Reeves. He wasn't traveling for a movie. He wasn't there for a press event or a fan meet. In fact, he had no luggage with him, no assistant, no security. He was just waiting. A young woman sat 2 rows down from him, cradling a baby. The child was fussing, crying softly. She looked tired, desperate. Her bag had spilled open beside her, and she tried to pick up diapers and baby toys with one hand while bouncing the baby with the other. Keanu stood up quietly. He walked over, bent down, and picked up the last item, a pacifier rolling under a chair. "Here," he said gently. The woman looked up, startled. Her eyes were red. "Thank you," she whispered, not recognizing him. He smiled and nodded, then returned to his bench. Nearby, 2 airport officers were watching. One of them nudged the other. "You see that guy?" he whispered. "Looks sketchy. Been sitting there too long." The other officer nodded. "Could be loitering, maybe casing people." Keanu didn't know they were watching him. His eyes were closed now, his hands in his lap, quiet, peaceful. But to the officers, that stillness was suspicious. They began walking toward him. Across the terminal, a man in a suit dropped his phone. It slid across the floor and hit Keanu's foot. He bent down, picked it up, and held it out. The suited man grabbed it roughly. "Watch where you're sitting, man." Keanu blinked. "I was just trying to." Yeah, whatever," the man muttered, walking away. The 2 officers saw the exchange and assumed the worst. They approached Keanu quickly. "Sir, stand up," one of them said. Keanu looked confused. "What? Stand up now," the other repeated. "Is something wrong?" Keanu asked calmly. "You match a description," the first officer said. "Hands where we can see them." People began to slow down and watch. Keanu raised his hands slowly. "I don't understand. We'll explain at security," the second officer interrupted. As they reached for his arm, a woman nearby gasped, "Wait, I think that's..." But it was too late. One officer grabbed his hoodie roughly. Keanu flinched, and then a sharp click and snap echoed through the terminal. A taser hit his side. He dropped to the floor, body tensing. Gasps filled the air. What are you doing?" someone yelled. He didn't resist. A man pulled out his phone and started filming. Another woman screamed, "Stop, that's Keanu Reeves." The officers froze. One of them leaned over Keanu, who was blinking slowly, trying to breathe. "Keanu Reeves," he whispered. The officer's face turned white. Security came rushing in. So did airport staff. Dozens of phones were filming now. A manager ran up, panting. "What happened?" We thought you tased Keanu Reeves." The officers stepped back. Keanu sat up slowly, holding his side. "I'm okay," he said hoarsely. "Just a misunderstanding." But it wasn't okay. Not really. The baby had started crying louder. The young mother was shaking. The suited man who had insulted Keanu earlier had quietly disappeared. A small girl stepped forward from the crowd. She looked about 10 years old, curly hair, bright eyes. She walked up to Keanu and held out a chocolate bar. "You look like you need this," she said. He took it, his eyes softening. "Thank you." Her father tried to pull her back, but she stood firm. "He's the nice man from the movies," she said proudly. Keanu looked up at the officers. "I'm not angry," he said, "but you need to be more careful." They both nodded silently, ashamed. But the damage was done. The videos were already on social media. The headline would come fast: "Keanu Reeves mistaken for criminal," and "Tased at airport." But none of that mattered to him. Not the cameras. Not the news. What mattered was the moment, the child's kindness, The mother's relief. The apology in the eyes of the officers. He stood slowly. With help. And then, even through the pain, he did something strange. He smiled. Because he had come to the airport for a reason. A reason no one knew yet. But soon, they would. Because Keanu wasn't just passing through. He was looking for someone. And that someone was about to change his life. The reason he came at the airport never felt so quiet. After the shock wore off, the videos spread faster than anyone could imagine. Within hours, clips of Keanu Reeves getting tased by airport officers had gone viral. Not just in the city, not just in the country. Everywhere. People shared the video not with rage but with heartbreak. He didn't fight back. He was helping a mother. He smiled after being tased. Those were the comments filling timelines. Even those who didn't know his movies suddenly knew his heart. By the next morning, the airport was surrounded by reporters. Cameras pointed at glass doors. Journalists tried to talk to anyone who had seen the incident. A janitor, a baggage handler, even the girl who had handed Keanu a chocolate bar. He was kind, she told one reporter. He didn't even yell. But Keanu, he was gone. No hotel records, no limo, no private jet. He had simply disappeared. What most didn't know was this. He never came to fly. He came looking for a woman named Angela, someone no one in the media had ever heard of, someone who used to write him letters, someone who once worked at a bookstore and sent him poems when he was just starting in Hollywood. He had kept the letters in a small wooden box all these years, and 3 weeks ago, that box was stolen during a break-in at his home. He never cared much for things, but those letters, they were different. And then, strangely, one of them showed up again. It was mailed to his foundation. No return address. Just a note inside. You don't know me, but my mom wrote these. She's at the airport now, every evening, watching planes. She's sick, sometimes forgetful, but she remembers your name. She never stopped writing. Please come if you can. Keanu had read that letter 10 times. And that's why he came. Not to promote a film, not to sign autographs. He came to sit. To wait. To watch for a woman with soft eyes who once believed in him when no one else did. That's what he had been doing on that bench. But now, because of the incident, the airport was chaos. The officers who tased him were placed on immediate leave. They apologized publicly. We failed, one of them said through tears. We didn't see the person. We only saw the hoodie. Keanu didn't respond to reporters. He didn't sue. He didn't blame. He just left a quiet message through a friend. Please be kind to each other. Everyone is carrying something invisible. Meanwhile, in a small corner of the airport, near gate G12, an older woman sat alone. Her name tag, once used when she worked security years ago, was clipped to her purse. It read, Angela. Her hair was silver now, her eyes a little cloudy, but she still carried a small notebook in her hands, filled with poems. She didn't know her letters had been found. She didn't know her daughter had sent one to Keanu. She just sat there, every day at 4 p.m., watching the same gate. Once, years ago, he had flown out from there. She remembered his nervous smile, the way he whispered, thank you for believing in me. And then he was gone. She had written to him every month since, never expecting anything, just sharing thoughts, poems, life. Some security staff knew her. They offered her water sometimes, or a blanket when the air was cold, but no one knew the full story. Until one day, Jenny, the girl who gave Keanu chocolate, walked by that same gate. She was with her father, who was helping deliver food for airport workers. Jenny stopped. Dad, she whispered, pointing at the woman, I think that's her. Who? The woman from the story. Her father looked confused. What story? The reason he was here, she said. I saw him watching her before the officers came. Jenny walked up to Angela slowly. Excuse me, she said. Are you waiting for someone? Angela smiled softly. I'm always waiting for someone. What's his name? Jenny asked. Keanu, the woman whispered. I knew him once, a long time ago. He was just a boy with big eyes and a sad smile. But he had a good heart. I wrote him poems. Jenny felt something deep inside. She took a photo quietly with her phone and sent it to her uncle. Who worked in city media. Is this the woman from the letter? She texted. The response came fast. Yes. That's her. 3 hours later, the photo reached Keanu. He was sitting in a park, watching birds, trying to find calm. When he saw the photo, his hands shook. She's still there, he whispered. He stood up and started walking. Then running. No cars. No assistance. Just him. He ran until his legs burned. Until he reached the airport entrance again. People recognized him immediately. Phones came out. A few reporters called his name. He didn't stop. He moved past the guards, who now stood aside in silence. One officer whispered, "We owe him this." Keanu walked through Terminal G. Through the same crowd. Past the same bench. And finally, he saw her, sitting there. Not moving, just staring at the gate. He walked slowly. Her hands were still holding that notebook. He knelt down in front of her. She didn't look up. Until he whispered, "You always believed in me." Her eyes flicked toward him. And for a second, they stayed blank, but then they filled with tears. "You came," she said. "I'm sorry it took so long," he replied. She touched his face gently. "You're older, so are you." They both laughed, even as tears ran down their cheeks. The crowd stood in silence. No phones now. Just respect. And then Angela opened her notebook. Inside was a new poem. Written that morning. She handed it to him. He read it slowly, then hugged her. Tight. The crowd clapped softly. And somewhere in the back, one of the officers who had tased him earlier watched the scene with tears in his eyes, because sometimes the people we doubt the most turn out to be the ones carrying the deepest truths. The stranger in the hallway. Keanu sat with Angela near the big glass windows of the airport terminal. Planes took off and landed behind them, but neither of them looked away from each other. The notebook rested gently between them. Angela's single quotes as hands trembled as she turned its pages, each one filled with years of poems, memories, and little sketches of birds, flowers, and sometimes his face. "I never thought you'd come," she whispered. "I never forgot," Keanu replied. "You believed in me when no one else did. I remember every word you wrote." She smiled softly. "They were just poems. They were more than that," he said. "They kept me going." People were still gathered nearby, but they stayed quiet. Even the reporters lowered their cameras. They had come for a scandal. Now they witnessed something more powerful: forgiveness, memory, and quiet love. Keanu pulled something from his jacket pocket. It was a wrinkled, faded letter. The corners were bent, the ink slightly smeared. "This one," he said, "was always my favorite." Angela looked down at the paper and laughed. "That one was silly." "No," he said. It said, "The most beautiful part of the sunrise is that it returns no matter how long the night feels." That line saved me. She wiped her eyes, surprised that he had remembered something she wrote 25 years ago. Keanu turned to her gently. "Why the airport?" "I was afraid," she said. "Afraid to mail more letters. Afraid you had forgotten. So I just started coming here. I thought maybe one day you'd walk by." He sat in silence. "And I almost didn't recognize you," she added with a grin. "Yeah," Keanu smiled. "The hoodie was a bad choice." They both laughed. For a moment, everything felt warm again. Across the airport, a man stood by the vending machines. He wore a dark coat and a navy cap pulled low. His eyes never left Angela. He had been watching since she sat down. His fingers held a small envelope, sealed, unread. Finally, he stepped forward. Slow, unsure. As he reached the area where Keanu and Angela sat, a security guard tried to stop him. "Sir, this area is..." Keanu raised a hand. "It's okay." The man stepped closer. Angela looked up. Her breath caught. "No," she whispered. Keanu looked between them, confused. "Do you know him?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "This is my brother," Angela said. "Samuel." The man's face broke into a sad smile. "Hello, Angie." Keanu stood back, giving them space. "You're supposed to be in Georgia," she said. "I was," he replied. "But I heard what happened. I saw the video. I saw you." He held out the envelope. "I found one of your letters in Mom's old things. I thought it was lost, but I read it. And when I saw you on the news, I knew I had to come, Angela. Opened the envelope with shaky hands. Inside was one of her earliest poems to Keanu, from when he was just starting out. The ink was faded, but the words were still visible. She clutched it to her chest. I thought it was gone forever, she said. That Samuel sat beside her. I didn't understand back then. He said, why you kept writing, why you cared about someone you never really knew. Angela looked toward Keanu, who sat quietly beside them. Because sometimes, she said, you see a person and something and you just knows they need hope. And sometimes, the person you help ends up saving you too. Samuel turned to Keanu. I'm sorry for what happened to you. You didn't deserve that. Keanu nodded softly. It's okay. Sometimes pain teaches you to see more clearly. There was a silence then, but not an empty one. A full silence, a shared understanding between a woman, her brother, and the man she once wrote to with nothing but hope and ink. Meanwhile, the media outside the airport was going wild. The headline had changed. Why Keanu Reeves returned for a forgotten letter. The poem that sparked a reunion 25 years later. People online shared their own stories of strangers who helped them, stories of second chances, stories of long-lost friends. Keanu didn't make a statement. But he didn't need to. His actions spoke louder than words. That evening, Keanu arranged something. He called a friend, someone in the film world who owed him a favor. By 6 p.m., a small stage was set up outside the airport entrance. Chairs were placed under soft string lights. A microphone stood in the middle. Keanu invited only a few people. No press, no noise, just those who had been part of the moment. Jenny and her father, the two security officers, now humbled and reflective. Airport staff, and of course, Angela and Samuel. When Angela sat in front, Keanu walked onto the stage. He held the notebook in one hand, the same one she had been carrying. He opened it to the last page. And read a poem aloud. His voice was soft, clear, trembling slightly. I wrote you a letter in silence and hoped you heard it anyway. I folded kindness into paper and mailed it to the wind that day, but you came back, not with riches, not with fame, not with pride. You came back with listening eyes and sat quietly by my side. The audience sat frozen. And when he finished, Angela stood up. The notebook in her lap. She walked to the stage and hugged him, not like a fan hugs a star, but like a sister hugs a brother she never thought she'd see again. Because that's what they had become. To strangers connected by words. By time. By kindness that asked for nothing. Asterisk the envelope with no name. 2 days after the poetry night outside the airport, peace had started to return. Angela was staying at a small guest house Keanu had arranged for her not far from the park, with soft lighting and a little garden full of white roses. She sat by the window each morning, writing poems again, for the first time in years. Her hands no longer trembled when she held a pen. Samuel, her brother, stayed nearby. He helped make breakfast. He read her old letters aloud in the evening. They were healing in small, quiet ways. Keanu visited every day. Sometimes he brought tea, sometimes flowers. Sometimes he brought nothing, just his presence. But on the third morning, as Angela opened the door to check the mail, she found something strange on the porch. A plain envelope. No stamp. No name. No handwriting. Just a red wax seal on the back, something old-fashioned and odd. She picked it up with care. Keanu, she called out. He had just arrived, holding a grocery bag with oranges and honey. She handed him the envelope. He looked at it for a long time. You didn't see who left this? Angela shook her head. No, it was just there. He opened it carefully. Inside was a single piece of paper. Typed. No signature. She remembers too much. She said too much. Tell her to stop before others remember to. Keanu's single quote's face changed. The warmth drained from his eyes. Angela saw it. What is it? She asked softly. He didn't answer at first. Instead, he walked to the edge of the porch and looked around. The street was quiet. A bird chirped nearby, but he felt something like a shadow just beyond his reach. He handed the note to Samuel. Samuel read it, his hands tightening. What is this? He asked. Some kind of threat. Keanu nodded slowly. I think someone is watching her. Angela's voice was quiet. But why? And then, Something came back to her. Something old. A memory she had locked away. There was a man, she whispered, long ago, before I ever wrote you letters. He came to the bookstore often, said he was a writer too, said he liked my poems. Samuel looked at her sharply. Did he ever hurt? You know, she said. But he asked strange questions, about the customers, about what they bought, who they were. Keanu sat down beside her. What was his name? I think he called himself Robert. But I never saw an ID. He always paid in cash. After a while, he disappeared. Keanu thought hard. I need to find out who this is. That evening, Keanu reached out to someone from his past, an old friend in private security. They once worked together during a charity mission years ago. She now helped victims of stalking and hidden abuse. Her name was Eliza. He met her in a quiet diner, showed her the note. She read it twice, then looked up. This isn't random, she said. The wording, the seal, this is someone who's done it before. Can you help me find him? Keanu asked. I can try, Eliza said, but you need to keep her safe. I will. Back at the guest house, Angela felt uneasy. For the first time since the reunion, she closed the blinds, locked the doors, but something deeper troubled her. She walked to her old notebook, the one she had written her first poems in. She flipped through the pages. Near the back, she found a loose paper tucked between two poems. Her hands began to shake. It wasn't her handwriting. The note read, even forgotten things can be remembered again. Watch your words. She dropped the book. Samuel, she cried. He ran in from the kitchen. It was inside my notebook, she said, handing him the note. Samuel single quotes S. Jaw clenched. We need Keanu. At that moment, Keanu was already driving back. He had just received a message from Eliza. Found something. Meet me tomorrow. And be careful. He didn't know yet what Angela had found, but he felt it in his chest. Something was unraveling. Later, that night, as rain began to fall gently, Keanu sat with Angela and Samuel on the porch. The wind moved through the trees like whispers. He's watching us, Angela said. I can feel it. Keanu didn't deny it. He looked out at the street, at the shadows between the streetlights. Let him watch, he said softly. I'm watching back now. The next morning, Eliza met Keanu near an old post office in the city. I traced the wax seal, she said. It's rare, custom made. Only a few people in the area order them. She handed him a photo. A man with deep-set eyes, a slight scar under his left ear. His name is not Robert, she said. His name is Charles Delaney, former intelligence. Vanished from records 10 years ago. Why Angela? Keanu asked, maybe because she saw something back then. Maybe her poems hinted at it. Sometimes words reveal more than we know. Can you find him now? I'm close, she said, but be careful. Men like him, they don't leave signs unless they want you to follow. Keanu stared at the photo. His jaw tightened. Then I'll follow. That night, Keanu returned to the guest house with a plan. We're not running, he told Angela. We're not hiding. What are we doing? She asked. He handed her a pen. We're writing. She frowned. Writing what? Everything, he said. Every poem, every memory, every truth you ever held back. Samuel looked confused. Won't that make us more visible? Yes, Keanu replied. And that's the point. Keanu arranged for a small event in the city. He called it Letters to the Unseen, a poetry night. Angela would read. Not quietly. Not privately. But to the world. And Charles, wherever he was, would hear her. And no, she was no longer afraid. Asterisk poems in the light. The venue was small. Warm lights dangled from the ceiling like stars. Chairs were arranged in soft rows. In the front, a single mic stood on a small wooden stage. Behind it, a wall of soft canvas displayed the words Letters to the Unseen. Keanu sat near the back, dressed simply, no cameras near him, no spotlight. Tonight wasn't about him. It was about Angela and her voice. The room filled slowly. People of all ages, students, writers, teachers, and strangers who had followed the story online. Some had seen the video of the taser incident. Others had read about the woman who wrote poems to a man she barely knew and changed his life. But no one knew the full story. Not yet. Angela stepped onto the stage slowly, her silver hair pinned gently, her notebook in hand. The room fell silent. She looked out at them, then down at the words she had written over so many years. Her voice trembled at first. Then it grew stronger. I wrote to no one, and the paper listened. I cried on pages when no one else did. I folded the truth and sealed it with hope, not knowing someone would read it and live. The crowd sat in still silence. Some people cried. Others simply stared. Keanu watched her from the shadows. Proud. Grateful. But someone else watched. Near the door. A man. Dark coat, navy cap. The same cold stare from the photo Eliza had shown Keanu. Charles Delaney. He stood without moving, arms crossed, silent. As Angela read her final piece, her eyes moved across the room and stopped. She saw him, the scar under his ear. The coat. She froze. Her fingers tightened around the notebook. Samuel, seated beside Keanu, noticed too. He's here, he whispered. Keanu stood quietly. He didn't panic. He walked slowly to the side of the stage. As Angela lowered the notebook, Keanu helped her step down. You did beautiful, he whispered. He's here, she whispered back. I know. Charles didn't run. He waited by the exit. Keanu walked up to him alone. What do you want? Keanu asked. Charles tilted his head. Not you, he said softly. Her. Why? She wrote something years ago, in one of her poems. She didn't even know what it meant. What did she write? Charles pulled a folded paper from his coat. This line, he said, was the key to a surveillance plan that exposed agents like me. They used her poem in training exercises and reports. It became a quiet weapon. Keanu stared at the line. Truth hides in open silence. Masks speak louder than eyes. I never understood it until years later, Charles said. And by then, it was too late. So you watched her? Keanu asked. You threatened her. Charles looked down. I was angry, not at her, at what her words did to the system I trusted. She never meant to hurt anyone. Charles nodded. I know. I came tonight not to harm, but to listen. Keanu didn't move. I don't believe you, he said quietly. Charles looked at him. Then why am I still standing here, unarmed? Keanu said nothing. He turned, walked back toward the stage. But before he reached the front, he looked back. If you ever come near her again, I won't be so kind. Charles didn't respond. He slipped into the night. Gone. After the event, Angela sat on a bench near the parking lot. Keanu sat beside her. He's gone? She asked. For now. She looked down. Did my words really hurt people? Your words saved people. Keanu said. What others did with them, that's not your fault. Samuel joined them with warm tea in paper cups. They sat quietly, under the night sky. Angela turned to Keanu. You saved me. He shook his head. You saved me first. That night, Angela finally mailed a letter again. This one had no poetry. Just a simple line. To the man who sat with me at the end of the world. Thank you for making it feel like a beginning. Asterisk. The letter with no poem. It had been 2 weeks since the poetry night. The airport had returned to its usual rhythm. Travelers rushing through terminals, kids dragging teddy bears, tired workers scanning tickets. But for some people like Jenny, the little girl who once handed Keanu a chocolate bar, things were not the same. She now carried a notebook of her own. She started writing poems. She said Angela reminded her that even soft voices can echo loudly. Keanu had stayed quiet during those 2 weeks. No interviews. No videos. No statements. He spent his days visiting Angela, sometimes sitting on the porch reading her poems back to her. Other times, he simply listened to the wind in the white rose garden while she sipped tea. It was peace. Or so it seemed. But then, the final letter came, delivered by hand. To the restaurant Keanu sometimes visited late at night. The envelope was small. Gray, sealed with a thin black thread instead of wax. Inside was no poem. Just one line, written in soft pencil. I am her son, and you don't know everything. Keanu sat still for a long time after reading it. The staff at the restaurant saw him staring at the paper for nearly an hour without blinking. He folded it once, placed it into his jacket pocket, and left without a word. Later that night, He went back to the guest house. Angela was sitting on the porch, wrapped in a blue shawl, humming an old song. He handed her the letter. She read the line once. Her fingers trembled. She closed her eyes. "I was going to tell you," she said. Keanu said nothing. He waited. "His name is Jonah," she whispered. "He was born when I was 19. I gave him up. I wasn't ready. I was working at the bookstore then. The same time I met you." Keanu's breath caught. "Is he?" Angela shook her head. "He's not your son," she said gently, "but he always wanted to meet you. I told him the poems were part of our story, that they helped me survive. And when he turned 25, he started looking for them." Keanu's voice was low. "So he sent the letter to my foundation." "Yes," she said, "and he was the one who found your stolen box of letters after the break-in. He returned one as a way to bring us back together." Keanu sat down beside her. "Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want you to feel trapped," she said. "He's my story, not yours." They sat quietly. Then Keanu looked at her. "But he's part of your heart, and your heart is part of me." Angela smiled softly. "He wants to meet you," she said. "He didn't mean the letter as a threat. He just didn't know how to ask." Double quotes. Keanu stood. "Tell him to meet me tomorrow." The next day, near the same airport bench where it all began, Keanu waited. A young man walked toward him slowly. Tall, sharp jawline, dark eyes, but with a nervous energy, like someone unsure whether to shake hands or run away. "You're Jonah?" Keanu asked. "Yes, you wrote the note." "I did." "Why?" Jonah looked down. "Because I didn't know if you'd accept me." "But you're not asking to be accepted," Keanu said. "You're asking to be seen." Jonah nodded. Keanu studied him quietly. Then handed him a notebook. "This is yours," Keanu said. Jonah opened it. Inside were copies of Angela's poems and blank pages. "Write your own now," Keanu said. "Make them yours." Jonah blinked. Then smiled. For the first time in years. That night, Keanu sat in the rose garden beside Angela. Jonah joined them. No cameras. No speeches. Just tea and stories. And the beginning of something new. A year later, the book Letters to the Unseen was published. A collection of poems from Angela. Notes from Keanu and pages written by Jonah. It sold quietly. But deeply. In airports. In libraries. In waiting rooms. Read by people looking for something gentle to hold. Auto. And in the front of every copy was a dedication. To those who feel invisible. You are not. Someone is always watching, not to judge you, but to remember you.